Hello and welcome back to Mary's Cooking Apple Crumble and Custard, also known as Who Knew People Would Want to Watch My Cooking Show? Apparently some of you do. You asked for it, I'm giving the people what they want. All right, just so you know, it is after 12. Wine is part of the deal. Alrighty, here we go. You're gonna need a few ingredients. Walnuts or pecans. You're gonna need some brown sugar, baby. Yes, it needs to be brown. In this case, the color of the sugar does matter. It's much more caramelly. You'll love it. You'll thank me. You are going to need a bajillion apples. Well, actually, you'll probably need about 6 of them. But how impressive are these apples? From my daddy's garden. That's right, he's quite the orchardist. Coconut. This is shredded coconut. You can also use desiccated coconut. Just whatever you do, do not use defecated coconut. Completely different flavour. We are going to need some plain flour, some cinnamon. Look at that cinnamon goodness. Some salted butter. Do not give me any of that unsalted rubbish. You're going to need some vanilla. I have here, oh my goodness, if you could just smell this. Oh, it's taking me to places. Anyway, this is actually vanilla bean paste. You can use actual vanilla pods if you want to, vanilla bean pods. Or most people are going to use extract or essence. Look, if you've got a choice, probably go the extract or the paste. If you've only got the essence at home, no judgment to you. That's, oh, and a little lone lemon. I also have some blueberries. As you know, I'm trying to use things from the garden. We actually do have some raspberries in our garden, but sadly I was not able to use them because the bugs have decided to do naughty things to each other on the raspberries. I'll leave you to figure that one out for yourself. So blueberries it is. First things first, l'apple, also known as la pomme in French. I'm going to choose 6 lovely apples. Oh, look, those ones shouldn't be separated. They're twins. They can go in together. And one more. How about this little guy? Now, it's important to know whether or not your apples are sweet or sour. So I'm going to have a little taste of one of these apples and let you know. Nice work, Dad. That's a good apple. Anyway, the best way to peel apples is actually to call out to anybody else who's in the house and say, hey, do you mind doing the apples for me? But in this case, the person I would normally call upon is actually standing right behind the camera. So I'm going to have to peel my own damn apples. But I'm going to use these little implements. As you can see, I've cut all the bottoms and tops off. It's a good little trick to do so that you've got a flat thing, especially if you are teaching children folk how to cook. It's really good to show the small people that a flat surface is much steadier. And look at this go. Look, if you haven't got an apple corer, then that's fine. You can just use a knife, a commoner's knife. I won't judge you. Oh no. Oops. Pop goes the weasel. These are Granny Smith apples. Thank you for asking. They are both tart and sweet, which is nice. And also, fun fact, they have less sugar in them than other apples. I could be wrong. All I know is when we were doing a no sugar diet, we were allowed green apples and blueberries. So if you ignore all of the sugar that's going into this actual recipe, it's basically a health food we're making today. A health food with munions of butter in it. All right. You may or may not have noticed on my lovely bench is a plant that has a face. Yesterday, I was at home, hanging out with the husband, when I received a text saying, just dropped something lovely at your door. And who should it be but my beautiful friend Chantel, who dropped a huge bag full of sweet goodies. Amazing. But not just that, also a beautiful plant. Put it in this very cute little thing. I'm loving it sick, mate. Loving it sick. Thank you, Chantel. Shout out to you. All right. Sometimes using the apple corer is a little bit hit and miss. This one is more miss than hit. There I am. I'm going to just use the apple corer again to sort that business out. Alrighty, all our lovely apples are peeled. I'm just going to get rid of the scraps. Give me a second. Gotta wash your hands. Don't want to catch any viruses. We're just going to slice these little apple folk up into thin slices. Don't be getting all thick on me. And I'll tell you why. Because this apple crumble is one of the few apple crumble recipes where you don't pre-cook the apple. What? I hear you say, how is this even possible, Mary? I'm telling you, I wouldn't lie to you. Not about apples. We're nearly ready for the next step. Okay. We're going to pop all these apples into this lovely big bowl. All right, so into the apples, I am going to put a little squeeze of lemon. You really don't need a lot of lemon. It's just a little bit of extra acidity and tartness. Also sugar. Now, hear me when I say this. Less is more. This is actually a recipe I adapted from another recipe I found online many, many moons ago. And I made it and I was like, that's way too much sugar there. So I took out a lot of the sugar and I added a few extra bits and pieces in. And so look, I'm only going to put probably maybe 2 heap teaspoons of brown sugar in there. I just don't think it needs a lot of sugar because there's sugar in the crumble. And this is just to help you to get, we can pull these all apart with your fingers because they're very clean, of course. The sugar just takes the edge off the tartness. You don't need a lot. Also, while we're there, let's chuck a bit of cinnamon in too. About a teaspoon. That's a lot of cinnamon. So why don't we add 1 more little teaspoon of sugar? As you can see, I'm very precise with my measurements and my recipes. I definitely am not making it up as I go. And I definitely have this all written down somewhere. Apples and cinnamon are a beautiful marriage. They are perfection together and they should never be separated. All right, move this guy out of the way because what we are going to need now is some butter. Now you will notice, quick little cooking hack here, on most brands of butter, they have a little measurement along the edge there. And I love this because I am very lazy and I do not like to wash my scales. And in fact, I believe that all kinds of scales are wrong and bad and they're against my religion, especially bathroom scales, but that's another story. Okay, so I am going to melt 100 grams. So I'm just gonna cut that off like that. That's my hunch, my little hunch right there. Okay, there's a good chance that's not gonna be enough, but I'm gonna melt it anyway. And I'm going to melt that on the stovetop because I do not have a microwave. It's true, I'm far too refined for a microwave. Actually, I just think they look ugly on the bench and we've just never bought one. And here we go, into the saucepan. That won't take long to melt. Try not to burn it. All right, while you're waiting for your butter to melt, you are going to need another bowl. Now, I must stress this to you. I've never measured these things. I never do, and I should, because sometimes this is amazing and sometimes it's not as amazing as it was the time before. So I'm going to very, very accurately measure. This is a 1/2 cup. I'm going to put 1.5 cups of oats into this bowl. Glorious. Look at that, just like a bought one. I'm going to put the same amount, actually no, I'm going to put 2 cups of flour in here. Sifting. Did I hear someone say sifting? Sifting is for milk drinkers. We don't sift around here. You don't really need to sift, in my opinion, unless you're making something very delicate. This is not a delicate dish. Shoot me down if I'm wrong. All right, I've got some of that shredded coconut. I'm chucking, I'm just gonna, let's call it 1/2 cup, shall we? Save a little bit for the top. All right, I'm gonna move this bowl over. Bring in the nutty professors over here. That's right, my walnuts. And I'm gonna take, oh look, let's call that a large handful, or just a regular size handful, unless you are a child, in fact. And then that would be 2 small hands. I can hear my butter bubbling away, one moment. It has started to melt, so I'm just turning that down. Look, if you've got a microwave, this is already melted and you've moved on with your life. Back to my nuts. We're gonna chop these nuts up. Listen, you can leave the nuts out. If you're not into the nuts, just leave them out. Or if you've got a nut allergy, I would strongly suggest that you leave the nuts out. Probably of all the dishes you make. All right, nuts are in. I know I'm gonna need more butter, so what the hey, I'm just gonna chuck in a bit more. That's right, I have very accurately measured about 50 grams. Chucking him in there. All right, and that's just from looking at how much volume is in this bowl. If you really do want some accurate numbers, I can write this out for somebody out there if they care. So I'm going to put in a cup of brown sugar. Like I said, this is basically a health food because everyone knows brown sugar is wholemeal sugar. Jokes. That's a joke, people. Sugar is death. All right. There we go. Look, it's almost a cup. And look, it's not packed down because like with everything I make, it's kind of like taste as you go. See how you feel, how the mood takes you and all that. Let me check on my butter. One moment. I'm a fan of butter. Some of you may or may not know I am in fact lactose intolerant. That is my superpower. And I found out recently, about 2 years ago, that I actually could still eat real butter because the lactose in it is processed differently or something. Anyway, as you can imagine, there was great rejoicing. And yeah, I live for it now. I'm going to bring my lovely butter right over here. And it is at this point that I am going to add, what is this? This is a 1/2 teaspoon. I'm going to put 2 of those guys in. Boys and girls, how much does that make? That's a whole teaspoon of delicious, yummy vanilla paste. Look, that stuff, it's just the stuff dreams are made of. Vanilla dreams. All right. Just going to mix that in, like so. And then I am going to pour that in. Look at that. So amazing. So traditionally when you make a crumble, you rub the butter unmelted through the flour and you don't have oats and nuts and all that other stuff. A traditional crumble is basically sugar, flour, and butter that you rub in. And I know I'm breaking all the rules here, but it's always been said about me, I am a rebel. I live on the edge. Now, this looks pretty much darn perfect, brothers and sisters of the interwebs. That looks so good. And what I really need to do at this point is add in some more flippin' cinnamon. I totally forgot. Oh my goodness. You wouldn't read about it. You wouldn't read about it because it'd be a very boring read. But anyway, I'm just chucking in like half a teaspoon of cinnamon. If you're not a big lover of cinnamon, you don't have to put that much in. But I'm telling you folks, this is amazingly delicious. And it smells good too. I'm going to give this little monster a taste and see if it is good. Oh yeah. That is giving me feelings. That is giving me deep feelings. I feel like it could almost have a little bit more vanilla. Call me crazy. I'm chucking some more of that goodness in. Just get in there. Get on in. All right. And I feel like some people would maybe prefer it a little bit sweeter. All right, we're going to move the crumble out of the way and we are going to bring in a dish. I broke my apple crumble dish a while back and this is all I have in the cupboard. So it's good because it's nice and deep so I can fit a lot of apples in there. Some people prefer a different apple to crumble ratio. In my recipe, you get a lot of both, and I think that's important. So I'm very delicately going to arrange all these apples, very delicately, just like that. It's an exact science, my friends. Then I'm going to add in the blueberries. If you don't want to add in any berries, please don't add in any berries. Look at that. Doesn't that look fantastic? It's at this point that you will realise, oh crap, I forgot to turn the oven on. So you will slowly move back towards the oven and stealthily turn it on and nobody will notice that you forgot. Okay. Next, we put the crumble on top. And look, that would be enough, but I've got to be a little bit extra. So I'm going to sprinkle on some extra coconut. And maybe a few little extra nuts. And look. The thing is, butter. You just need to understand it's something that makes everything taste better. And that's why it's called butter, because it sounds a lot like better. You really don't have to do this part if you don't want to bathe in the deliciousness of what butter is. Okay, that looks pretty good. I've made a big mess, of course, but that is how I roll. Okay, I'm going to put this in the oven. I'm putting the oven on 180 degrees, and this little guy is going to cook for probably about half an hour. Then I'm going to check him, and what's most important is that all the apple is soft and cooked. Those of you who would normally make apple crumble the normal way, where you use a can of apples, so that's already cooked, or where you have to stew off your apple first, you might be like, oh my goodness, I don't believe that apple is going to be soft enough. But I'm telling you, believe me, I've done this many times before. Side note, Many times before I've taken it out of the oven a little bit too early and it's been a little bit on the crunchy side. So we're not going to do that today. Today we are super profesh and we are going to pop our apple and blueberry crumble into the oven and it's going to come out delicious. I'm going to take a minute after this to quickly clean down my bench and then I'm going to show you how to make my husband's favourite custard. And yeah, it's going to be good times. Okay, while our apple crumble is cooking away in the oven, I decided I would show you how to make a cute little side bit to go on the side, if you will. Okay, so this recipe has a little bit of a sentimental flavour to it. Most of you who know me would know that my beautiful, gorgeous husband had cancer a couple of years ago and thankfully he is all through that. So it's not part of our journey anymore, but it was a huge big deal at the time, of course. Anyway, during that time, he couldn't eat anything. I was cooking like 4 or 5 different things for him every night, trying to get some food into him, but he had a really inflamed throat, so he wasn't able to eat anything. And basically it came down to all he could eat was custard. And look, he's always loved custard and he was very high on endone, so he didn't mind at all. But I got very sick of cooking this custard, but it got us through the hard times and it's the only thing he ate for several weeks. A couple of tablespoons of custard a day. Anyway, that's not fun, I know, but I just thought I'd add that in there because this is actually Richard's mum's recipe. She said it's not that traditional and she said don't use it in the show, and I am actively disobeying her, so if there are no more episodes, you know why. But no, not really. She is the most incredible dessert maker I know. Her and her daughter, Richard's sister, both amazing dessert makers. I aspire to be like them. So I'm going to make Elaine's custard just for you guys. All right, a few ingredients. I have 2.5 cups of milk, a couple of little bum nuts, as they call them. I've never called them that before, but you know, they're eggs. If you're wondering, free range, thank you very much. A little bit of corn flour and some caster sugar. And for this recipe, I've gone with vanilla extract. You're gonna also need a bowl and a whisk and a saucepan. Let's get started. Onto the heat, we place 2.5 cups of full cream milk. You wanna bring him to the boil. Do not let it burn. While our milk is boiling away, we need to crack 2 eggs into the bowl. This is what makes this custard not traditional, because normally you would only use the egg yolk, but we are not wasters around here. We're in the middle of a pandemic, my friends, and those chickens did not give away their unfertilized children so that you can only eat the yolk. All right, I'm gonna put in 2 tablespoons of caster sugar, like that, yep. And 1 tablespoon of corn flour. Get in there. All right, then I'm going to whisk those guys together. I really want to say you got to whisk it to get the biscuit, but we're not making biscuits, so it really makes no sense. Whisk it. We'll whisk it real good. I realise I'm not even singing Whip It, I'm singing Push It. Anyway. Dear, oh dear. Okay, you want to whisk those all in like so. All right, that looks pretty good. Let me check on my milk. My milk is warming up. Do not be fooled. Milk does not take long to boil. It will be very quick, and it'll start to rise when it starts to boil, and you really don't want it to rise all the way over the top of your pan for obvious reasons. All right. There's little bubbles in there, just little ones. That is enough. All right, come on over. This is the tricky bit because you've got to keep whisking as you pour the milk in. Ooh, I splashed a bit of milk, but we're not going to cry about it because that's against the rules. I'm going to use a cloth underneath here to stop that from moving. All right, here we go. You really don't want to make scrambled eggs. Look at it go, look at it go. I'm actually going to pour this back into the saucepan, pop it back onto the heat so that that corn flour can do what it was born to do, because it was born to thicken. I'm just going to put it on a low heat and I'm going to stir that baby, stir it real good. And that corn flour should thicken it up. The good thing is I don't have any lumps. I'm taking the heat up because I'm not a patient girl. I'm just going to grab some vanilla and with much precision I'm going to add a very accurate amount to the mixture. If you need a measurement, let's say that was a teaspoon. I know you're all rooting for me at home and hoping that my damn custard thickens. If you're a spiritual person, why not say a little prayer for me right now? You know what? While I'm just waiting for this to thicken up, I'm going to quickly check on my apple crumble. Oh wow, that looks so yummy. Let's have a little look. I reckon it could go a bit longer though. Ooh, we're thickening up here, people. We are thickening. That is what I'm talking about, people. This is the custard. Very excited to taste it, actually. All right, let's bring it over here. So there you have it. Some beautiful, smooth custard. And I'm going to taste it. And in tasting it, I'll be able to determine whether I put in enough vanilla and whether I need to add a smack or more. Yum. That's not bad. I reckon it could probably thicken up a tiny bit more, and it probably will. And look, it's not super sweet. In fact, I'm actually going to add a tiny bit more vanilla to it. Just chuck a bit more in there. Totally up to you. And look, some people like a thin custard, some people like a thick custard. We just want this little guy to just accompany our apple crumble. He's like the best mate. He is the Robin to the apple crumble's Batman. All right. We're gonna wait probably another 10-15 minutes for our apple crumble to come out, and then we're gonna serve it up and show you how it looks. And then we're having apple crumble for late lunch. Let's have a bit of real talk. Let's have some truth telling. This guy took about an hour because I could tell from looking at the glass that the apples weren't quite cooked yet. And look, again, I never really know how long things are going to take. So I know that's not heaps professional, but just keep an eye on it. I actually cooked it for an hour on about 175. And I'm just guessing that it was an hour. Please just keep an eye on it. I'm not responsible for your dessert. All right, we're gonna dip into it and hopefully it's cooked This could be embarrassing. Alrighty. Oh, the crumble's crumbly. Oof, it's making sizzling noise. And look, there's juice at the bottom, that's a good sign. If you've got these barista jugs at home, they're very handy. It's good to have nice jugs. And just gonna pop a blob of cream on there. There we go, apple and blueberry crumble with custard and double cream. Mary, why do you doubt yourself? Seriously though, that's yummy. The apple is still a little bit tough, but that's because, I don't know. Don't even care, I'm eating it.